original Zam dancer Emperor Peter Senzagaza representing for the dance of fraternity and the people they have seen. One leg in the water, another one at the fire. Just want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel MD90. Enjoy some interviews right there. Boom!
Well, the conversation on the burial of the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu seems to be resurfacing again as we head into the August general elections this year. So Emmanuel Mwamba is one of the people that has brought back the conversation. So tonight we discussed the need to put the final rest of Zambia's President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. President Lungu, who died on 5th June 2025. It's been several months since the demise of the late president, and the matter remains unresolved, and the late president remains unburied. So let us discuss this unfortunate scenario and bring to bear the pressure to government to so that the demands to surrender the process to the family and hopefully put to rest Edgar Chagwa Lungu. So I don't see how he's bringing up this conversation if they are not willing to make any compromises, because the reason why this court case has protracted almost like a year now is because the Lungu family is not willing to have the body brought back to Zambia, and the Zambian government is not willing to have the body buried in South Africa. So that's where the issue is. So no matter how much they try to bring back this conversation in public domain, the reality is, as long as that impasse is not addressed, if they do not address the elephant in the room and they keep on fighting, bringing up a scenario like this, it will never get back into people's conversation. The reality is that, yes, Zambians want the closure, but under what circumstances? Because the two parties are not willing to move the needle by any stretch. You can see even one of the lawyers that was speaking on behalf of the family, Makebi Zulu, is now back in the country doing his own presidential run as we head into August general elections. So then trying to bring back this conversation in public domain without really changing their positions, whether it's a family that's supposed to change their position or a Zambian government that's supposed to change their position, it will be a waste of time. So meaning we just have to go, is it to the Supreme Court where we're supposed to head? But anyway, he brought that conversation back into the public light and hoping something would come up. And one of the people, that's JJ Banda. JJ Banda has been issuing a number of statements the past couple of days. He's really hard at living outside Zambia. He's not feeling it. He's placed his bets on having Hakainde Hichilema leave government in August and hoping a new president comes into place. I think that's where his gamble is. So he's been very active on his social media platforms, mostly Facebook. And he says, Edgar Chagwa Lungu formed Tonse with other opposition parties because Patriotic Front leaders were engaging in Lusaka politics through the radio and TV programs only. Which is why you want to choose a president in April. Just leave Tonse PFFDD, pretty much the vehicle that is being used by the Patriotic Front now is FDD to continue with the campaigns and wait for the Patriotic Front papers from court from Chawinga, you dreamers. And you pretend that you love Edgar Chagwa Lungu and the people who are in prison and exile. You can't even sacrifice your own egos. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, instead of preaching peace and reconciliation every day, it's division. Shame on you, Given Luvinda and his group. Pretty much shooting at Given Luvinda, simply saying, hey, when Edgar Chagwa Lungu was alive, Given Luvinda acted like he was Edgar Chagwa Lungu's friend, but it looks like after his demise, it's Given Luvinda that's bringing the division within the Patriotic Front. But then again, you cannot blame Given Luvinda. Given Luvinda has his own presidential ambitions also. So why do you want him to submit to Brian Munduvile? So this conversation, that's one thing with the opposition, is that everyone comes to the conversation trying to say they want to be the president and get the endorsement from other presidential candidates. This is what Bino Mpundo was saying the other day. The reality is that will not work. If everyone comes to the table with the hope that, no, these other guys are simply joining this conversation so that I become president and they endorse me, that conversation has already run its course and it's dead on arrival. That's the reality of things. And he goes further to say this is still Emmanuel Mwamba, not Emmanuel Mwamba, Emmanuel J. Banda, the former Petauke independent member of parliament. And he says today, 26th January 2026, there was a central committee meeting for Patriotic Fund, which was chaired by Given Luinda and Creston Mukandila. Instead of discussing reconciliation, they have resolved division within the Patriotic Front. So pretty much simply saying there was a Patriotic Front Central Committee meeting that was held today. And yeah, that's what he's talking about. And the resolutions from that meeting were reviewed. But Mao Sampa, one of the people, shares an article that was put up by Shishua, pretty much sharing the situation with Edgar Shagalungu's plight and the burial. It seems like people are trying to bring back this conversation of Edgar Shagalungu's burial into public conversation. It's just that the public is now fatigued. It's news that is not changing anything, because the family has also said they've changed their position and the Zambian government has said they've not changed their position. Then what do you want the public to talk about? There's no version of this conversation that has not been analyzed or discussed by the public. They've already done their part. So if the two parties are not willing to change their position, then why do you want to bring this conversation back to light? But anyway, this is the article that Shishua put up. He says, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Why Zambia's 2026 election is like no other, like no other before it. Voters in Zambia head to the polls, to the ballot box on 13th August 2026 this year to choose political leaders in the general elections. That might see Hakainde Hichilema becoming the latest casualty of the anti-incumbent election wave that has recently been seen to defeat the sitting presidents in Africa, in other African countries such as Botswana, Malawi, and like previous ones. The 2026 elections is unique for 5 major reasons. And one of the major reasons that he cites, this is Shishua's article, he says, the absence of a former president. This will be the first election in over 30 years of the multi-party democracy in which no former president would play an active role in deciding its outcome. Following the death of Edgar Chagalungu in June 2025, Rupia Banda in March 2022, Zambia has no ex-president who is alive in nearly all previous polling stations, polling since 1996, when Kenneth Kaunda boycotted the elections after he was barred from running. Former presidents have supported presidential candidates who have generally ended up as winners or finished in second place. For instance, in 2001 elections, Kaunda had been defeated by in 2001 elections, Kaunda had been defeated by then Frederick Chiluba of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy in 1991, urged voters to support Anderson Mazoka of the opposition party, United Party for National Development, UPND. Mazoka narrowly lost the contest to Chiluba, backed by MMD candidate Levi Patrick Mwanawasa in 2006, in support of Chiluba, who was facing corruption charges in court, helped Michael Sata of the opposition Patriotic Front, who pledged to drop the corruption cases to run incumbent president, Mwanawasa, much closer than expected. So pretty much it's simply highlighting to say the 2026 general elections that we'll be holding in August will be unique because we will not have any former president, because right now all former presidents of Zambia are dead. That's pretty much what it is, and he highlights a number of issues as he goes further in that. But the Patriotic Front resolutions of the Central Committee meeting held on Monday, 26th January 2026, this is what JJ Banda was referring to say, given when they held a Central Committee meeting of the Patriotic Front, and says PF Central Committee has opened applications for adoption for 2026. This thing is just a joke, honestly. That's why they even laugh it off. How can you start adopting members of parliament and councillors when the party is at the moment has not been appearing on ballot boxes because it's in court? Yeah, anyway, so one of the things that they resolved in that discussion, the disassociation from masqueraders. So the Patriotic Front unequivocally disassociates itself from the so-called Edgar Chagalungu PF movement, a faction that contrasts the propagated by the few rogue and selfish elements bent on dividing the party and obliterate the legacy of the late President Michael Chilufya Sata as the founding father of the Patriotic Front. Central Committee meeting retaliates the association of the pretty much the same points that they've been saying. And that's what J.K. Bando was saying. They seem to be dividing the party, not uniting it. Whilst KBF put up an article to say victim of distorted political propaganda. KBF is having a hard time in this run as we head into the 2026 general elections. It seems like he placed his bet on probably associating with other parties, and it seems like most of them don't respect him, really. That's what it comes down to. Yes, people, he's been credited to be a strategist, but on the ground, they don't seem to be rating him that much. So him being like a front-runner candidate for most of these associations or alliances is mostly sidelined. And it's mostly because he has not tested on the ground. His party has not participated in any by-elections. It could be a strategy that he says it's just a way of not demoralizing them. They are waiting to participate in August general elections, but pretty much he's having a tough run with associating with the opposition. What we suspect our special forces deploying commandos should be top secret, as says Katele Kalumba there in the mass newspaper. Zile, that's the army commander, misused the words exterminate, says minister, and things are bad. Catholic priests, that's in the Daily Nation. And pretty much that's the news, ladies and gentlemen. Have a beautiful day, or is it good night now?